Welcome to the Alien Nation podcast. This is the place where we talk all things alien and all things UFO. In season 1, we're going to be covering all the hot topics. This is going to include George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar, the US Nimitz encounter, the Roswell crash and is there a nuclear UFO agenda, and then also famous UFO landing cases that seem to be around schools. So stay tuned.
Look on the NSA. My God.
We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say it, it looked like a long cylindrical object.
No one who knew Area 51 from the inside ever talked publicly about the saucer story.
Well, there's several X-Wing 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
Telling it in order to protect himself. He says he was hired to work at an area called S4, which is a few miles south of Groom Lake. At S4, he says, are flying saucers, antimatter reactors, and other working examples of technology that is seemingly beyond human capability.
Right, this came from somewhere else. I mean, as bizarre as that is to believe, but I mean, it's there. I saw it. I know what the current state of the art is in physics, and it can't be done.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Alien Nation podcast. I am your host Lee Puxley. I'm joined here once again by my co-host Niall G.
Alright guys, welcome to the show.
On today's episode, guys, it's going to be another interesting one as always. We want to be discussing UFO landings and especially the ones that seem to be in and around school playgrounds and areas like that.
Yeah, and this seems to be going on decades in multiple locations around the world. So there's a lot of info, so just bear with us, guys.
Yeah, again, bear with us, but we'll get through it. I want to start off with an incredible encounter that it was in Papua New Guinea back in 1959. Now, I learned about this encounter through watching the UFO documentary, The Phenomenon. I know I've probably plugged it about 1 million times in this podcast already, but
Yeah, you gotta watch it though. Can't recommend it enough. Like, you gotta watch this.
yeah, it's an unbelievable documentary if it's something that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Make sure you watch it. James Fox does a great job in getting together a lot of evidence and putting it together into a fantastic movie. But in this case, it's just an incredible case all round, and the reasons for it is this Australian missionary, he goes out to Papua New Guinea in 1959. He is doing what he's out there to do. He's taken part in the community, and him and roughly about 48 other people were present on this occasion. There was a mixture of adults and children. And what they claimed to have seen was this disc-shaped object hovering about 20 feet above the air. And this encounter actually lasted for many hours, not just seconds or minutes. Hours, apparently.
It's incredible. That rarely ever happens.
Exactly. And while this encounter was going on, he happened to look up along with all the other children there and the other people there, and he seen on top of the craft 4 figures, humanoid type figures or creatures that were dressed in black suits.
Didn't they wave at him too, or did he wave?
That's what the story goes. So he said in his mind, this is incredible what's going on here, and he thought, well, I wonder if I can communicate. Wouldn't it be great if I could send them some sort of communication, some sort of friendly gesture? So him and the school's children decided to wave at these beings, and to his surprise they actually waved back.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story, and if it's true, it's just crazy to think that these school children could have directly been communicating from beings from outer space or another planet or another dimension or wherever it is that they come from.
Incredible, this.
Yeah, just a bit. And to go furthermore with more encounters, we've got a big encounter that happened in 1966 in Australia in the Westall School.
Yeah, it's brilliant, this case.
So the reason why it's brilliant is there's just so many different witnesses to it. Reports suggest that there's over 300 witnesses. That includes students and also the teachers. And what happened on this day back in 1966 was this disc-shaped object was seen hovering just next to a power line tower right at the end of the children's sports field. It then began to descend and lowered itself into this wooden reserve just behind the school barrier. A lot of the school children actually hopped over this barrier to get a close look to see what was happening. Some of the witnesses said that they heard a humming sound, that there was an extreme heat. That seems to be one of these things that happens around UFOs, that they give off this extreme heat.
Yeah.
It's been recorded on many different sightings. And
leaving marks on the ground.
That's another thing, bare marks on the ground. But in this encounter, it was reported by witnesses that it actually rotated and then shot off like a bullet out of a gun and disappeared into the distance.
Yeah, kind of like shot off like what, like the way the gimbal was.
Yeah, as Niall's referring to there, it's happened so many times, and all these different encounters, they do seem to have a lot of very similarities between them. One of them being that they seem to rotate. In the gimbal video that was released back in 2017 by the Pentagon, this video that the military craft seen a UFO actually rotates, and Bob Lazar, who reportedly claims that he worked on alien technology and alien spacecraft while he was at Area 51, also said that the craft rotates and propels itself towards whatever its destination is. So there's a lot of similarities there, with some of these reports. This encounter that happened in Westall in 1966, it was a very important one as well, and it was taken seriously because the armed forces actually turned up at this case, and the police as well. And it's only today, many years later, that some of the teachers have come forward and said that they were actually threatened by some of these authorities. They said that if they were to speak out and say that this encounter was true, that this encounter happened, that their careers could actually be on the line.
Just told to keep their mouth shut like everyone else.
I know, it's just as I say, these encounters, I don't know why we're not allowed to know the truth, or why people aren't allowed to tell the truth, but it seems to be again a reoccurring event that happens. They're told to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, but not anymore. The taboo is kind of getting removed.
It is, slowly but surely. The taboo's starting to come away, so we'll see how that goes in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah.
Any other encounters you can think of?
So actually in Miami, it was just literally 1 year after West Hall. In Miami in '67, a bunch of kids were out in the yard, in the schoolyard, and they encountered a UFO with the teacher. And then, incredibly, it happened again the following day for 2 days in a row. But this time when it reappeared, it had 2 other crafts with it. So there's 3 crafts seen. The kids, at the time, the teacher was out of the classroom. So the teacher comes back into the classroom. All the kids are standing there looking out the window at these 3 crafts now. So then they decide to all run out to the yard together at the same time. And as strange as it sounds, supposedly the crafts turned around and disappeared into 2 trees, and then reappeared, and then flew around for a bit, and then disappeared.
Which makes you wonder what's actually going on there with the craft. I mean, is it trans-dimensional, like some people have reported, where they can actually go in and out of other dimensions?
Yeah.
What is actually going on there? It's obviously some sort of physics that we don't understand just yet.
In 1967.
Where,
what technology do we have back then to do this?
Yeah, exactly. There's we don't have that today, so we definitely didn't have it back then. Another strange one that happened during the actual Westall encounter in 1966, just to go back to it. There was a small town nearby. It's called Baldwin, and this was just 4 days prior to that incident. An engineer come forward and said that he spotted an aircraft in the sky. It was a clear day, and he actually took a photograph of this this craft, and it's on a Polaroid picture, which is very, very hard and difficult to fake and fraud. It's shown in a Phenomenon movie, And I'm going to get Niall here. He's the man behind all this. He's the guy who puts all this together and puts the edits. So he's going to pull that photograph up for you. You can put it up in the edits. To furthermore, to give more evidence towards this with these UFO sightings in and around schools, we've got another couple of great cases. One of the other fantastic cases is basically in 1977 in Pembrokeshire in Wales in the UK itself, right here. Some school children suggested that they seen or reported that they seen a disc-shaped object that landed in a field nearby the school play area. They also reported that they seen beings in silver suits, which again, absolute crazy event that's gone on. But some of the teachers thought that they could have been lying, and they told the headmaster. The headmaster separated them into separate rooms, spoke to them individually, and asked them to draw what they saw. And to his surprise and astonishment, all the children basically come up with very consistent stories, very consistent drawings. And it's very hard to fake what children are telling you, because children just don't lie.
Yeah, they don't lie. Like, well, we'll see.
I know I've got 2 kids myself. When it comes down to things like
they can't be lying about that. Like,
no, these aren't little white lies. These are something that children just wouldn't just make up. Especially, not just one child or 2 child. This is a mass array of children.
Yeah, and the story about the West Hall kids, like 30 years later, they haven't changed their story. They're still repeating the same story.
It's very consistent.
Yeah, very consistent. Like,
now that they're adults as well.
Yeah, they're adults. They've never changed their story. Like, it's.
To back up what happened there as well back in Pembrokeshire, just a month later, a hotel manager actually claimed to see a very similar disc-shaped object that landed in the field opposite her hotel. She claims that she again seen beings in and around this object, and it gave off an extreme heat. There was actual physical evidence left from this, just like the Lonnie Zamora case that I spoke about in previous episodes. The grass actually had 2 inches burnt, into it 2 inches down. That was completely dismissed though, because the local Royal Air Force came out and basically said that it was all just a hoax, and to dismiss it as usual, as they used to back then.
Yeah, it's always the story.
But now that taboo is starting to go away,
we can actually have these conversations. But I think it goes back to a lot of people were just afraid to lose their jobs, because if they spoke out, if you're in a high profile job and you spoke out about this, you could be labelled as crazy. So people were just like, better keep their mouth shut.
I'm sure me and you will still be labelled as crazy doing this,
hopefully
but
not.
We'll see. To go on with that again, there's just more and more incredible encounters that we'd like to talk about, and the one for me, and I don't know if Niall the same with it, is the Zimbabwe case that you're going to say.
It's the best case, of course. It's the best case ever in history of UFO cases.
If people out there don't know about it, Niall's going to put plenty of footage in the edit again. You can catch it again in the UFO documentary movie, The Phenomenon.
Yeah.
But back in 1994 in Rui, Zimbabwe, a school basically had this encounter where a disc-shaped craft actually landed at the back of the schoolyard. All these school children,
64,
was it 66?
66,
yeah, 66 school children actually ended up getting interviewed because they said that this shaped object landed, and that these beings in black suits, very similar to what we would say today grey aliens, they had the large heads, large black oval eyes. They were standing by the craft. They were very friendly. They didn't feel threatened or anything, the children.
Seemed to telepathically communicate with them to settle them down.
That's what the children said. They said that they telepathically communicated with them, that they were trying to tell them that technology is bad, that we're ultimately destroying our planet with what we're doing with our technology. And when you look at what we're doing today, we know that we have been, and it's something that we need to try and change for the future.
That was what, 27 years ago?
Yeah. And it's still telling the same story again.
Still.
To keep going on with that story as well, John Mack, who was the great Harvard psychiatrist, who actually he's got many books on alien abductees. He done a lot of research into it. He actually interviewed Betty and Barney Hill as well, which is one of the most famous alien abduction
you gotta check that story
cases of all time. He interviewed these children. He actually said at the end of it that these children saw what they saw as they seen it. How they're explaining it is no different to how they experienced it.
That's incredible story. It's got best story of all time.
Yeah, most definitely. If you listen to Jack Valet and James Fox when they're on the Joe Rogan Experience, they debate about the school landings and UFOs and things like that, and they also discuss this depiction that was taken in the rock cave paintings that were made in Australia. Now these rock art paintings in Australia are thousands of years old, and when you get the photographs of these and you compare them next to the drawings that the school children actually drew in Ruby, Zimbabwe, it's very, very eerie because these beings seem to be very, very similar. These are rock paintings over thousands of years ago.
Them paintings could be up to 40,000 years old, 30,000 years old on
and
the
they're
rocks.
virtually identical to how these school children seen these beings that come down and basically seeing what these school children.
Yeah, but beside this school, there's a recent interview done with Louis Elizondo, and he said that beside that school there's uranium. There's a uranium mining site, so that's new information that's just come out of it. Well, I found out about that recently, so once again, uranium.
There's a huge debate going on within the UFO community, and we're all just trying to get to the bottom of it. Jack Valet and James Fox, again on the Joe Rogan Experience, when they're discussing this, they believe that a lot of these school landings could be for the fact that environment is like a benign area. They're always getting chased by military aircraft, and if they land near schools, that's not going to happen, so it's a safe environment for them to land. That's their argument. But as Niall's just picked out there's another argument that maybe that they're just it's coincidence and they're just after some sort of
uranium, some kind that's used in nuclear sites. It's the same material used in nuclear sites, so, and we know that UFOs are always seen near nuclear sites.
Yeah. Again, guys, I don't know the answers. I don't have the answers. This is all up for discussion. We're just here to try and give you some of the facts, give you a bit of context, and hopefully you can get involved, see what you think, check out all the information that we're giving you, and
and like, subscribe, and share.
Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you again soon.
Cheers, guys. Peace.